Hello there, friends. It's still Monday. This will probably be the last video for tonight. This will probably be a little bit longer than the other ones. In a way, it's a shout out. In a way, it's a reply and just some of my own thoughts. There was a user called Monday, FA Monday, and that's FA, I believe, for Forever Alone, who made a reply video to me in regards to the Was I Really So Blind video. I watched a number of his stuff, and I'll put the link to his channel in the description of this video if you want to check it out. It's pretty good. He's got a lot of interesting stuff to say. I think he was very on the money. It's probably very true with his observation and analysis. So, he used the word. He used the word, which if I've ever heard anybody use that word, it's been so long that I can't even remember. But he used the word ghost in one of his videos. So, somebody says that, my ears perk up, because you'll have these people who bless their hearts, just like tell you how, oh man, you're a great guy, you're a funny guy, you definitely can totally find someone, etc. And these are people who've had numerous sexual partners and relationships and etc., etc. And it's hard to sort of process that sometimes, because your reality to them is so foreign, and likewise theirs to you, where it's just the thought. You've internalized loneliness so much that the thought of people having numerous girlfriends and women interested in them and actually having sex with them, etc., it's such a foreign feeling that it honestly sometimes doesn't even feel real. But he described that feeling like you're a ghost, which I know I've talked about many times before in the past. So it was interesting to hear somebody else describe it that way, where you're a ghost. You're sort of here. You can interact with people, and you might even be very good at interacting with people, which I know is very, watching these videos. You might, it's, oh, well, no wonder you're boring, you're monotone, you're this. It never even occurs to people that you may actually be very good at interacting with people, more or less. And you can even make them funny, and you have a sense of humor, and people will even compliment you that they think you're funny, and they, whatever. It's, and once again, I don't expect people to make that, is it intuition something? When it's just some lonely person sitting in their car talking to themselves into a camera. So, but, where's I going with this? God, this is what happens when you go on just random tangents. But yeah, he described it as being like a ghost, where you're here, you can interact with people, but you're sort of not here at the same time. It's very strange how that can be. And I do have to say, I'm very glad I made that video and had that sort of realization, because I truly want to know. I truly want to know, so that I stop wasting time on like fantasies and things like that, where you put this mental energy and time and emotion into something that's not even there. So if I can recognize it and not waste time, I think it would be very beneficial. So, and so one of the things too was just that I've been thinking about was, all right, so if you ask them out and all that, the answers that you get, you already know that. So take it as a no. So how can you sort of think to yourself or figure out, well, I don't think they're really interested, so I'm not even going to bother like thinking about them anymore, or even like thinking about, oh, should I ask them out? That's just another thing. And that's sort of maybe that was the crux of, maybe that was the big point in his video, is that this thing that I do, this thing that I do where, oh, should I have this? Should I have that? Well, I don't know. I talked to her, and she definitely doesn't seem to generally talk to me back. But this one time, seemed to really open up, and we had a conversation. Just that thing you do is basically, well, first off, if you're doing that, it's probably, there's probably not really an interest from them there. I do have to believe that if they are interested, they will probably make that indication somehow. Somehow you will get the feeling like, oh, I think they might be, not just like, oh, they looked at me and said hi. And so you want to create this like false positive there, but essentially that the reason why you do that is because you can't actually recognize female attraction because you haven't really had it. So therefore, if it's something that you haven't had, or so, I would say I can maybe throughout the course of my life, there's been some there, but it's so infrequent and not consistent that you truly have a hard time recognizing it. So that's why you do this whole thing in your head of, oh, this or that, I don't really know. And I think that's that was very true. And I don't have to tell you, obviously, that's a very sobering thought, sobering, right? It's the first time you've been sober in a while, huh? Sorry, a little joke for those of you who've been watching for a while and know my issues with alcohol. I thought you'd enjoy that little self-awareness. So, yeah, but it's a sobering thought to think that women have found you so unappealing or so uninteresting that you can't even recognize what like a woman being interested in you even is. It's funny, it's funny. Sad, but sort of funny. And it really does make sense. It really does make sense. It is maddening, of course. So I was just trying to think, can you learn something from that? So if it's that, if it's that, I don't know, alien to you, and so if you even sort of hint that I don't really know if this person is interested, then maybe the reality of it is they're not. So you don't have to keep wasting time and energy on that. And just on another little tangent, I remember looking back now, this was a few years ago. This was before I really got the courage to actually be able to ask women out in person. Because that only happened, very recently, maybe in the last year and a half, 2 years, something like that. So, and that's sort of another thing is the various, oh God, hold on. Let me finish one thought before I go on another. But yeah, there's this one that I asked out via Facebook, somebody I worked with. It's one of those, you seem like you chat and all that, whatever at work. Thought I made him laugh, I don't know. But yeah, I remember not hearing, and I sent a message and didn't hear anything back, and then saw them at work, and just their demeanor was noticeably weirder and distant. And it was just like, oh shit. Wonder if wonder what happened. Maybe you freaked them out, maybe this, but and so you do the whole thing of gee, I wonder if they I wasn't on their friends list, maybe they didn't get my message, maybe this, maybe that. And it's looking back now, do you really think, so this is a modern day female with a smartphone that she's always checking, and the day after you ask them out over this thing, and they see you actually in person and they act kind of weird, do you actually think they didn't see your message, and obviously they were weirded out by it due to their demeanor? So it's one of those things, that thing you do once again of oh, well, I don't know, what if on Facebook it goes to their no, fucking oh, it's all so clear now, sort of, or it's getting there. God, where else was I going with this? So, the problem that I have, folks, is I don't know how to cross the threshold between being able to talk to women and make them laugh and the romantic thing. I talked about this in one of these short videos I recorded recently. I know this is hard for people to believe, but I can actually talk to people. Me and another coworker got sort of unofficially hush selected to be hey, so we want some of these new people we're bringing in to be to be trained by you, because we're personable, we know what we're doing, blah blah, of all the people that work there. If I was incapable of interacting with others, I would not be asked to do something like that. And it's my sense of humor is very sarcastic, dry, even a dark sense of humor, but a lot of people really like it, and they've even told me, because oh, I don't know if you're being serious, blah blah, but yeah, but I like that. It sort of strikes a chord with them that I think they don't normally get, in their interactions. So that's why I think they like it. Not everybody gets it, but that's whatever. And I'm not like deliberately trying to be like, oh, let me try to make people laugh. A lot of it is sort of just like doing it to sort of, because you want to see like what people will say. You're almost doing it to kind of amuse yourself. But it's just, and you get complimented on it, and people will laugh deep, sort of. It never seems like it oh, women like a guy who can make them laugh. Like, well, I just, they may like that, but I feel like it doesn't always, depending on who you are, it doesn't always translate into a romantic interest from women. Sorry, it's one of those like, I am parked far away. You don't need to be fucking just randomly parking near me. Where you have that thing where you can't tell, it's just, like, maybe for that romantic interest to be there with you making them laugh, they first have to be, I don't know, romantically interested. And then if you make them laugh, well, romantically interested, I just mean, and then if you make them laugh, like, oh, all the better, where it's, you can't really do it in reverse per se, where there's not an attraction that they have for you. And so by you making them laugh, like, yeah, it might make them laugh and all that, but it doesn't really, I don't know. So I couldn't think. See, I can't say, well, you're just considered a friend, so that way, you can't. Remember that whole, like, 2 ladders thing? I feel like in the aughts was a thing, like, oh, you can either be on the friends ladder or the lover ladder or something, and you can't go between them. Or something like that. Yeah, like, I'm not being friend zone because I don't have friends, like, I'm not friends with these people. It's just like your coworkers and acquaintances, something like that, but like, I'm not their friend. You got to have friends to be. It's like you get relegated to this weird court jester of sorts. You are very funny, ha ha, but doesn't really feel like they're gonna have anything to do with your ass when it comes to dating wise. And so you've had just these interactions where you try to ask them out, and their demeanor, like, just out of nowhere, like, how dare you be romantically interested in me? I mean, I don't know. Oh, man. I guess it's all things. Is it freeing? Is it freeing to have to accept some things? Or is it like just make you bitter and angry, or everything? I don't know. I don't know, folks. Well, a woman won't make you happy anyway. You know, it's like in the last few years, about the only time where I felt some amount of happiness was when I would talk to a girl and I sort of maybe got the impression like, oh, I think she might like me. That is about the only smidgen of happiness that I've felt in the last few years. You know, as I said, it's the case of people who they've had their share of relationships and all of that, and it's like, no, I don't get any happiness from this. Well, you have basically, you've basically never done anything, and people are telling you. Not really sure what to do anymore. Don't really know what's real. Who's telling the truth? What even applies to me, you know? I mean, about the only, just go cold approach, just go cold approach, which I've done here and there, but, are you just kind of playing a losing game where, like, they're all gonna, I fucking know, man. About the only wild card out there is I do believe I have the ability to transform myself, because I have done it before. I mean, I used to be absolutely terrified of driving, and I basically didn't drive until I was 27, and now look how it is. And like I said, I used to have very bad social anxiety I used the example where this one volunteer, once I got to know her more, told me that she legitimately thought I was retarded, just the way I was. But now, and I've had people who knew me from back then just say, wow, you're like a completely different person now, whatever. Once again, that's how I am able to talk to people. But just because you come up with a great idea and you do the testing of what the market share is and blah, blah, blah. I really think this is going to be a great idea, and you put out a great business plan and you get the funding and you make the product and you take it to market. There's still no guarantee of its success. And so I guess that's why it's sort of a wild card. I don't really know, folks. I don't know what to really believe anymore with that. And on that note, I believe that will be the end of this video. Bye-bye.